Hey, it's Darren Lee.
Leonard Williams.
This is Justin Burris.
Jason McDougal here.
Doug Middleton. Darren Roberts.
You're watching NYJFTV.
You're watching NYJFTV.
You're watching NYJFTV.
You're watching NYJFTV.
Go Jets.
Go Jets.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of NYJFTV. I'm one of your hosts, Kevin Sirkin. No Rob Carpenter tonight, but we're back with Fireman Ed and our good friend Ben Blessington filling in. And after a week away, we have a whole lot to catch up on. Following another fourth quarter collapse against Carolina 2 weeks ago, the team rebounded from an ugly start, beating KC 38-31. And guys, the game really couldn't have started uglier. You factor in Lee being inactive, Mo benched for the first quarter, and you can almost sense that a blowout loss would have just ignited all the Fire Bowles flames even more than they already were. But once again, you've got to give this team a ton of credit for battling back the way they did. They dominated time of possession. McCown was lights out. Kirsch and Robbie have been special to watch these last few weeks. And I think most importantly, in the fourth quarter, after giving up another lead, they finally found a way to close it out. So, Ed, I'll start it off with you. What are your thoughts on the way this team's been playing?
I think Todd Bowles set the tone right away. We didn't know what was going on until actual game time, and when he suspended Darren Lee, didn't let him suit up. I mean, that in itself speaks. That's his team. This is his team. He finally got his guys on this team, and he's setting the tone. Because Lee, let's face it, Lee is. Come on, he's one of the better players on the defensive end of the ball. You would argue and say he's one of the top guys. To sit him like that sells the statement to all the rest of the guys. So for the future, that's what I want to see. I want to see a coach be like that. And you're starting to see Bowles a little bit, starting to open up a little bit, starting to make a few laughs, starting to joke around. These guys are the players are starting to tell you what you see in the media is not necessarily what so I like what they're doing. Listen, that was a big win for the Jets. Kansas City was reeling, and they still are reeling. But, to come back from 14-0 down and, show the grit that they showed. I mean, you got a lot of things. There's a lot of positives to look forward to for the future. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt. They should have won the game in Carolina. We weren't able to have the show that week. I was twisted. I mean, first off, you don't punt the ball in the middle of the field. I keep saying it all year. Punt to the sideline. Punt to the sideline. You got to give the guy one area to go to. You can't put it in the middle of the field. I was a lunatic at the stadium. I was saying it before the play. I says, please, situational punt it. Punt it to the sideline. Don't give him an opportunity. There he went. Off he went. Never mind a fumble from McCown, but whatever. Go ahead.
I was more curious to hear your thoughts on the goal line, the first and goal, second and goal, third and goal, 3 straight passes. How'd you feel about that series there?
Well, you know what? Listen, and then I don't question stuff like that. I don't have a problem with that because he did this week. He ran the ball every down, so he sees something that he felt he could exploit. I don't have a problem with it. You only have a problem when it's not successful. I have more of a problem with what I just told you with the special teams. You can't get beat like that. All right. McCown would like to get back that fumble. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking about at that time. We're taking over the game at that point. were actually taking over the game. The momentum was swinging. I go over there to Scott, try to help him out a little bit in the stadium to get the place rocking. I purposely went over there saying, all right, let me help this kid out and see if he could, give him a little. It was insane. I says, I must be the kiss of death. I went over there and it was like all hell broke loose. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, Ben, jump in, man. What have you seen from this team
right.
the last 2 weeks?
Well, I think the last 2 weeks are two completely different stories. I guess I'll start with the win. For all the hoopla, and Kevin, I wrote that article on NewYorkJetsFans.com how I said I thought the team was going to finish with a better record than they did last year. And, people in the offseason were talking about how this team's going to go 0-16. They lost Brandon Marshall and Darrell Revis. But I think this past Sunday, you really got to see why the critics were so wrong. To come back 14-0, first of all, that's something that last year's team would have done immediately off the bat. When you're down 14-0, and if this was 2016 led by Ryan Fitzpatrick, they're losing the game. I think of, the game against the Colts where they got down big, the game against the Dolphins. This is a different team, and the Jets have only lost by more than one possession one time this entire season. With the Carolina game, obviously that was frustrating. A lot of good to take away from it, but, the series of play, as Ed was talking about, with not punting to the sideline, and before the punt, I already knew. I was like, this is either going to be a return for a touchdown. We're going to have some horrible penalty. You could already tell. But this past Sunday, I was really impressed how they came back and ran the football. As far as the 4 or 5 straight plays or whatever it was in the goal line, I've really liked John Morton this season. I thought he's done a good job, mixing up the play calls, and he's had guys like Jermaine Kearse and Robbie Anderson have career years, and Josh McCown, not to mention. But I think he's still learning. I think that's a good example. If you think about how many times, throughout the year that the Jets have had terrific starts, it really looks like, John Morton comes into a game with a terrific game plan. He knows what he's going to do, but when you hit the second and third quarters, he's kind of petered out. I think this is probably the first week that we haven't seen him completely just run out of ideas almost. That goal line series was definitely not his bright spot, but besides that, putting up 38 points, Josh McCown having 3 total touchdowns. I don't know what more you could ask for. I'm a big fan of John Morton, and I was very happy with how this team played on Sunday.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely a huge fan of Morton too, and I wasn't so much concerned about the play calling as much as it's just been a problem all season getting that 1 yard, whether it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, or 1st and goal. It took us 10 plays to get the touchdown against the Chiefs at the end of the game. I just don't know what it is, whether it's the offensive line, we need a legitimate fullback back there, a battering ram at running back. I don't know, but again, looking at the entirety of this season, you got to be happy for the players first off, because Ben, you touched on it. They've been competitive in every single game this year. But even more so for Bowles, because he wasn't given a shot to succeed this year. We all heard what everybody was saying. We were going to be the circus act that's actually going on across town right now. That was supposed to be our circus. That was supposed to be what was going on here. And Bowles, he's just done such a great job. He's held it together. These guys are fighting for him. You see the post by Leo after the game. This is my coach. I play for him. These guys respect him. They're giving it all for him. And you're starting to see progress from him as a coach too. And as long as he can continue to develop his in-game coaching and start to make these adjustments in the second half, I think he can be a guy that you can move forward with.
Yeah, that's a terrific point you just mentioned, because, really the big thing that bothered me last year with Bowles is you didn't see much of an improvement from 2015. You think about, the bonehead coaching decisions he had in his rookie year, and you thought, over the offseason he was going to work on that. And then the second year is almost worse. How many times were we complaining about, why did he punt here? Why did he call a timeout here? This year, they've been pretty much non-existent. I know week 1 he had the punt against Buffalo, but if you think about it, besides that, how many times can you really bring up a Coach Bowles glaring, mistake with, mismanaging the clock and whatnot? I've been very impressed with Coach Bowles and the improvement he's made, and obviously, I think it's helped having his guys in the locker room, guys who are less selfish. You can just tell that the guys enjoy playing for them. They enjoy giving it their all, and it's hard to cheer against them. And obviously, in the back of my mind, am I thinking about, if the Jets miss the playoffs, I'd want to have a better pick. But it's like, I can't cheer against it, when Jamal Adams is giving it his all, when Marcus May is giving it his all. These guys are playing hard, and, even if they lose, the next 2 games, I'm still going to cheer for them the final 2 games just because I want to see them succeed. They're playing hard for their coach, and I think Coach Bowles is really taking the next steps.
All right. And Ed, you mentioned, obviously Lee was inactive for the game. I thought that was the right message to send by Bowles. But a lot of people weren't too happy with the fact that it took 5 late meetings for Mo to just miss 1 quarter. So aside from, the way that Bowles handled that, is there any way that you could see Mo coming back on this team next year, or is it a lost cause at this point?
No, absolutely not. He's done. It's finished. He's over. There's no way, because he's not going to take a pay cut, and really they need to move on from him. So he's not a positive influence. He's a malcontent. That's hard for me to say. Anyway, getting back, Mo's a non-entity at this point. I don't even want to talk about Mo, because I don't believe that the future. He's nowhere in the future. They already gave him the money. They're done with him. They made the wrong move. They thought they made the right move. I thought they made the right move at the time. I thought that was the guy to sign. Out of all the guys, Snacks was a two down player. Richardson is a screwball. He's not doing much in Seattle. Okay, we got a steal in that draft, in that trade. We got a steal there. It wind up being a steal because Curse, and I told you this when we got him, that Curse is more than an average wide receiver. That's a joke. This guy's a big money player. He comes to play. He's played in some of the biggest games in football. He did it in the Super Bowl. I mean, this guy's a stud. Forget about it. I'm not saying he's a number one, but he sure as hell is a great number two. And let me just tell you something, going back to something. Football's a mindset. This guy's trying to bring his mindset to this team, Bowles. All right? You want to go like McCowan sneaking in. He snuck in 2-3 different times. They pulled the Brady. When I was watching them, I'm going, this is what New England does. This is what New England does. They were on 4th and 1, 3rd and 1. They're constantly sneaking Brady up the middle. I mean, think about all the times, Brady, you're sitting in your seat and you're going, here we go. Here he goes, quarterback sneak. How many times through the years have we seen that? As far as the 3rd and 4th and 1, you know how I am, Kev, with this 3rd and 4th and 1. I've been saying it since the beginning of the year, okay? It's a mindset. You have to believe when you put that fullback in there, you got to believe 4th and 1. You're getting 3rd and 1. That's just a mindset. In this football life, love going 5 receipts. I think when team Joe Cena, you ain't 3rd and 1. They're run ball. They're in the ball title. I think what Bowles is doing. Listen, just stay the course. Right now, thank God he's successful, because now we have something to look forward to. Continuity is everything. We're doing right now is continuity. It's going to be pandemonium now. Pandemonium on that side. Let us get some stabilization. Let us be stable, and let's win a world championship. Everybody's waiting for it. God damn it, I'm waiting 45 years. I know this kid's only, what is he, 19?
17.
Ben, was he 19? 18?
17.
17. Yep.
Huh?
17 years old. You hear us, Ed?
How old's Ben? Ben's a young, nice. I love it. Young blood, and he's sharp. He knows his stuff. I love that. That pumps me up. I like that.
We taught him well over at Let's Jets. We taught him well. Going back to Coach Bowles for a second, the big news over the last couple of days, of course, was the fact that he announced Josh McCown is going to be starting the rest of the season. That obviously sent a few fans over the edge, thinking about him possibly coming back next year. I know, Ed, when you and Rob brought that up a few weeks ago, I thought the idea was crazy. But looking at it now, if you're planning on going into next season with whether you draft a quarterback or if they still have any kind of belief in Petty or Hackenberg, I can almost understand the idea of bringing McCown back as that veteran mentor backup. So do you see that happening?
If McCown's not back.
All right,
I think we just
lose Ed?
So yeah, hop in, man.
Yeah, I'll hop in here. I was talking about this yesterday. I think, I hope that Josh McCown just retires after this year. I know he won't, but I hope that he just walks out on his career year. I think he's going to come back. Kev, I agree with you. I wouldn't be completely against it. Even if the Jets, drafted Josh Rosen or drafted Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, I think it could be nice to have a guy like Josh McCown. I don't really want to pay him because he made $6 million this offseason. I know he's a year older.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, though. That's going to separate him from Fitzpatrick. He's not going to do this contract holdout that Fitz did. He's not going to complain if he's not the starting quarterback. I think that's what makes this situation so much different than Fitz, is that McCown is actually a guy that you can depend on to help groom your young quarterbacks, even if he's not actually in there playing.
You're definitely right, but I'll say this. So if the Jets, and we were talking about Muhammad Wilkerson earlier, and I think he should be gone. I mean, he's the face of your franchise. He's making $20 million a year. If the Jets cut him within the first 3 days of the season, they free up $9 million. Excuse me, they free up $11 million, and they have to bite a $9 million bullet. And if we're paying Josh McCown, we're probably going to have to pay him. I mean, he's coming off a career year. What, $8-9 million? I mean, you eat up all the money you just freed with Muhammad Wilkerson. I mean, I think they're going to bring him back, Kev. I think you're right. Personally, I hope we don't bring him back. I think the one thing that we've been able to see from Petty is I think at the very least he could be a good backup in this league. So personally, I'd like to see him in that number 2 role. And if you bring him McCown in and then a rookie, Petty now slides to the 3rd quarterback. I'm not sure. I think they're going to bring him back, and time will tell if it's a bad move. But he certainly earned it. I mean, this year has been a career year. But just because you're talking about it, and I don't think the Jets are going to make this mistake. But we cannot be fooled. Josh McCown is Josh McCown. He's not this version that we're getting this year is not the norm. I mean, this is a top flight Josh McCown. This is the best he's going to play at. He's 39 years old. He's not getting any better. If anything, he's going to get worse. So I think if it's the right contract and he wants to play and he wants to be the backup and mentor, then sure. But I don't want to bring him back as the guy who's going to start 16 games again.
Ed, your thoughts? Oh, Ed's not here yet? All right. So anyway, going back to – thought Ed was back in. So looking at the team right now, Ben, I don't know if you heard all the discussion over the last few weeks about in the hunt, not in the hunt. It's been kind of crazy, especially looking at the team and the fact that there were 4 games against, good teams that they could have beaten that would have had them 1 game out or even tied right now for that wild card spot. So looking at things right now, 5-7, obviously they're mathematically alive. I wouldn't use the term in the hunt right now, but it starts 1 game at a time. How much confidence do you have in this team to right the ship at Denver next week?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about making the playoffs, I don't know how confident I'd say they'd be, but I'd be. But as far as this Sunday, yeah, I think this is probably, you look at the next 4 games, I think this is probably the most winnable out of the 4. It's in Denver, which is going to be tough. The Jets have only won 1 road game this entire year. We know Mile High is a tough place to play, but I think, the Broncos have been awful this year. I mean, they're highly touted defense. Can't stop a nosebleed. Simeon's awful. So I think I'm pretty confident. I think this is going to be one of those games where the Jets just blow the doors open and play really well. But then you're talking about next week in New Orleans against one of the top teams in football. That's a different topic. But, I said this. I mean, I'm not expecting the Jets to make the playoffs. I'll be a little disappointed, but I'm not going to be let down if they don't make the playoffs. I mean, virtually they'd have to win out. The Ravens would have to lose twice. And then I believe it's the Chiefs, Raiders, and the Chargers would all have to lose once or something like that. But, it could have happened, yes, but I don't think it will. But, I think even if the Jets win these next 4 games and don't make the playoffs, I still look at that as a win. So always cheer for them these next 4 games. But this Sunday, I'm fairly confident.
Jets are going to have a hard time in Denver. They're going to have a hard time in Denver. They haven't shown that they could win on the road. They just haven't shown they could win on the road. So they're a different team at home. They seem to be comfortable. And that part, of course, because that's a young team. Young team, they play better. They're more comfortable at home. They got to learn to win on the road if they're going to be, if they're going to do anything down the future. I will tell you one thing. If they won the next 2 games, you see a little excitement come San Diego.
That crowd's going to
They go 7-7.
I better see you leading chance.
They come home and play San Diego at 7-7. You're going to see that. You're going to see the fan base show up, whether it's Christmas Eve or not. So we'll see. I mean, the Jets are up and down. They've been excited about. They got a lot of young. They got a good, nice young nucleus.
All right, so we're about to open it up for some questions. And the first one that we've got is from our good friend Louis Gonzalez, who wants to know if we get eliminated from the playoff race soon, either in the next week or 2, why wouldn't we at least want to see what we have in Bryce Petty? And Ed, we were kind of talking about this before the show. At this point, 3 years in, don't they probably already know what they have in him?
Who's that?
Bryce Petty. That was a question from Louis Gonzalez. He wants to know if we get eliminated from the playoffs pretty soon, why we wouldn't at least see Petty come in.
You know what? I think that the Jets seen what they wanted to see. See these guys every day. I don't think they're going to see anything different in one game or two games. I mean, they gave them extensive work in training camp and in those games. And I don't know. You know, I don't know if I don't know if Petty's going to be on the team next year. To be honest with you, I think you probably see Hackenberg stay there, but I don't know if Petty's going to be there. To be honest with you.
I think to touch on what Ben said, I think the most likely scenario is that we're probably going to draft some young quarterback at some point in the draft. You're going to bring back McCown or a veteran, and then it'll probably be Hackenberg and Petty battling it out for the third spot.
Don't count out. Listen, if they don't go after Cousins, if Washington is stupid enough to let him out on the open market, which is amazing to me, if they allow him to go into the open market, it's going to be a free-for-all for Kirk Cousins. I got news for you. Kirk Cousins is an established player in this league. These other guys, you don't know what you're getting with these other guys. You have no idea. I mean, these guys that drafted first round, what's the statistics? 50-50? I think it's 50-50 if they even make it. So if you have an established quarterback that's won in this league, listen, for one, I go after Kirk Cousins, especially with all the adversity he went through. Remember, he was drafted third round. RG3 was their guy. And everybody looked at Washington like, what the hell are they doing drafting a third-round pick? They drafted the third-round pick to taking over the team. They got rid of RG3. So, I mean, this guy is a good quarterback. He's a tough guy. I like tough guys behind the quarterback scene. And don't be surprised if that don't happen. Don't be surprised if they go up in the draft if they like somebody. They'll be willing to give up all the picks. Believe me, all these other teams, what do you think Goff did? What do you think the Rams did? What do you think the Eagles did? Nobody's talking, they were killing the Eagles and the Rams when it happened, if you remember, because everybody's a Monday morning quarterback. Everybody knows everything after the fact. But during it, they gave up. Look at what they gave up. Look at what they gave up. Now, look at what they have. They have for the next decade, they have their quarterbacks. So to me, if the Jets are sold on one of those quarterbacks and you have to put your trust in your franchise, in McCagnon, you got to put your trust in him. If he thinks that one of those guys is going to be a stud, hey, then give up the twos, give up the two number ones, do what you have to do. You know what? Because the NFL is not for long. You're not going to be here. So you got to make a move. The McCagnon's going to make a move this offseason. You can guarantee that. He's either getting a free agent in here or he's drafting one of those kids. And despite who he does, McCown will be back. McCown will be back. And they'll pay him a reasonable amount. They may pay him $7 or $8 million, but they're going to have him in the fold. That's going to happen. Guarantee that.
All right, Ben, your thoughts, man. I saw you giving the thumbs up to possibly signing Cousins.
I love it. Yeah, I'm a big Cousins fan for sure. I think if you're going to rank, the Jets quarterback options this season, and, people can talk about winning games has hurt the Jets. If the Jets sign Kirk Cousins, it doesn't matter. If anything, it was a good thing to win games. The Jets are going to have the most cap space in the NFL once they release a few guys, Ben Ajalana, Muhammad Wilkerson, Buster Screen. They're going to have by far and away the most cap space. I'm perfectly fine giving $30 million a year to Kirk Cousins. I have no hesitation. A guy like him does not hit the open market that much. So I would pay him. That would probably be option number one. Now, option 2 or 3, you have two options here. You can either trade a fortune to get Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold, whoever you prefer. I personally like Rosen. I think he can make all the throws. I think he's my guy. He's more polished than Darnold. But if you're going to get him, you're going to have to trade your first, your 2 seconds this year, your first next year, and maybe even your second that year. So you're going to have to give a lot. But as Ed said, look at the Rams and Eagles. It doesn't even matter. They have their quarterback for the next 10 years. And then the third and final option is you sign a free agent and then you draft a guy wherever you're picking. So that those guys you're looking at are going to be Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, whoever you feel is better fit. So if the Jets are going in an area where they feel like Baker Mayfield or Tyrod Taylor is the guy they want to have, maybe they look at bringing in, or excuse me, did I say Tyrod Taylor, Lamar Jackson or Baker Mayfield? Maybe they look at bringing a guy like Tyrod Taylor into the fold, a guy who's a mobile quarterback if he hits the market to fit the play style. But I think Ed's right. I think McCown's going to come back. I think that's pretty much a given. And then I think probably the most likely option is that they'll probably draft a guy like Lamar Jackson or Baker Mayfield or one of the guys who fall. But I'm a big Cousins fan. I don't think Washington's going to let him go. I think it's going to be one of those things that at the last minute they'll sign him because you don't let top flight quarterbacks hit the open market. And if they do, I'd be incredibly surprised. And if it happens, the Jets need to jump on that. But as far as Bryce Petty, bringing it back to the question, yeah, I mean, if the Jets lose the next 2 games, I think you have to consider it. But as Ed said, I mean, I find it personally hard to overrule a coach's decision to say, well, that was dumb, because it's like these guys are seeing, Petty and Hackenberg every single day in practice. They have much more knowledge on the situation than I do. I mean, I've seen Petty in games, but I haven't seen him every day in practice. I would like to see him just to see if he can be a competent backup in this league or maybe more. Because the last time we saw Petty, he threw 3 touchdowns in a preseason game. So we don't know. But the one thing that the McCown does give you that we probably wouldn't have had this year was the development of our young guys. I mean, Robbie Anderson, and I don't think Jermaine Kearse is a young guy, but we'll keep it to Robbie Anderson for now. I mean, look at the difference from last year to this year. Guys are hitting him in stride this year. So McCown has really helped Robbie Anderson grow as a player. He can now be a number 1 wide receiver in this league. So it's a double-edged sword, but I think, if the Jets drop their next 2 and you're going into the Los Angeles game, at what would they be 5-9 at that point? I think I would consider it. But if Petty or Hackenberg's that bad, then you stick with McCown.
Ben, good stuff, man. I think we lost Ed here, so we're going to wrap it up. Again, great show, guys. Thank you to everybody that tuned in and for all the questions. Talk to you guys again next week, hopefully after a Jets win. Go Jets.